the exact nature of our wrongs. I guess before starting step 5, it might be a good idea to do step 4 and the first 3 steps. But step 5 is taking a look at our past and character flaws and things that we've done wrong and sharing it with another person. And that other person doesn't have to be your NA sponsor. It could be your pastor, it could be someone you trust. But the reason you might want it to be your sponsor is because when you share your stories, they're going to be able to share their stories. And then more times than not, you'll find out that we're not very different. There's a lot of common similarities between the disease of addiction. The fifth step is the key to freedom. It allows us to live clean in the present. Stop right there. And then we're just going to say a prayer. Dear Jesus, thank you for rescuing me and doing your loving work in my life. Amen. The fifth step is the key to freedom. It allows us to live clean in the present. Sharing the exact nature of our wrongs sets us free to live. After taking a thorough fourth step, we deal with the contents of our inventory. We are told that if we keep these defects inside us, they will lead us back to using. Holding on to our past would eventually sicken us and keep us from taking part in our new way of life. If we are not honest when we take a fifth step, we will have the same negative results that dishonesty brought us in the past. Step 5 suggests that we admit to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. We looked at our wrongs, examined our behavior patterns, and started to see the deeper aspects of our disease. We now sit with another person and share our inventory out loud. Our higher power will be with us during the fifth step. We will receive help and be free to face ourselves and another human being. It seemed unnecessary to admit the exact nature of our wrongs to God. God already knows stuff. We already rationalized, although he already knows the admission must come from our own lips to be truly effective. Step 5 is not simply reading a step 4. For years, we avoided seeing ourselves as we really were. We were ashamed of ourselves, and it felt isolated from the rest of the world. Now that we have the shameful part of our past trapped, we can sweep it out of our lives if we face it and admit it. Addicts tend to live secret lives. For many years, we covered low self-esteem by hiding behind phony images that we hoped would fool people. Unfortunately, we fooled ourselves more than anyone. Although we often appeared attractive and confident on the outside, we were really hiding a shaky, insecure person on the inside. The masks have to go. We share our inventory as it is written, skipping nothing. We continue to approach this step with honesty and thoroughness until we finish. It is a great relief to get rid of all our secrets and to share the burden of our past. Usually as we share this step, the listener will share some of his or her story too. We find that we are not unique. We see by the acceptance of our confidence that we can be accepted just the way we are. We may never be able to remember all of our past mistakes. We do, however, give it our best and most complete effort. We begin to experience real feelings of a spiritual nature when we once had spiritual theories. and now begin to awaken to spiritual reality. This initial examination of ourselves usually reveals some behavior patterns that we don't particularly like. However, facing these patterns and bringing them out in the open makes it possible for us to deal with them constructively. We cannot make these changes alone. We will need help of God as we understand Him in the fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous. Step 5 in long form. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 12 steps deflate ego. Step 5 is difficult but necessary to sobriety and peace of mind. Confession is an ancient discipline. Without fearless admission of defects, few could stay sober. What do we receive from step 5? Beginning of true kinship with man and God. Lose sense of isolation, receive forgiveness, and give it. Learn humility, gain honesty and realism about ourselves. Necessity for complete honesty. Is danger of rationalization. How to choose the person whom to confide. Results are tranquility and consciousness of God. Oneness with God and man prepares us for the following steps. AA's experience taught us that we cannot live alone with our pressing problems and the character defects which cause or aggravate them. If we have swept the searchlight of step 4 back and forth over our careers, and it has revealed in stark relief those experiences we'd rather not remember. If we have come to know how wrong thinking and action have hurt us and others, then we need to quit living by ourselves with those tormenting ghosts over things of yesterday. The ghosts of yesterday gets more urgent than ever. We have to talk to someone about them. So intense, though, is our fear and reluctance to do this that many AAs first try to bypass step 5. We search for an easier way, which usually consists of the general and fairly painless admission that we were drinking. When drinking, we were sometimes bad actors. Then, for good measure, we add dramatic descriptions of that part of our drinking behavior, which our friends probably already know about. The practice of admitting one's defects to another person is, of course, very ancient. It has been validated in every century and characterizes the lives of all spiritually centered and truly religious people. But today, religion is by no means the sole advocate of this saving principle. Psychiatrists and psychologists point out the deep need every human being has for practical insight and knowledge of his own personality flaws, and for discussion of them with an understanding and trustworthy person. So far as alcoholics are concerned, AA would go even further. Most of us would declare without a fearless admission of our defects to another human being, we could not stay sober. What are we likely to receive from step 5? For one thing, we shall get rid of that terrible sense of isolation we've always had, almost without exception. Alcoholics are tortured by loneliness, even before our drinking got bad and people began to cut us off. Nearly all of us suffered the feeling that we didn't quite belong. Either we were shy and dared not draw near others, or we were apt to be noisy good fellows, craving attention and companionship, but never getting it. At least to our way of thinking, there was always that mysterious barrier we could neither surmount nor understand. It was as if we were actors on a stage, suddenly realizing that we did not know a single line of our parts. That's one person we loved, alcohol, too well. It did let us act extemporaneously, but even Bacchus boomeranged on us. We were finally struck down and left in terrified loneliness. And read one more part. This feeling of being at one with God and man, this emerging from isolation through the open and honest sharing of our terrible burden of guilt, brings us to a resting place where we may prepare ourselves for the following steps toward a full and meaningful sobriety. I have to guess where to go. Somewhere around here. Having made our personal inventory, what shall we do about it? We have been trying to get a new attitude, a new relationship with our Creator, and to discover the obstacles in our path. We had admitted certain defects. We have ascertained in a rough way what the trouble is. We have put our finger on the weak items in our personal inventory. Now these are about to be cast out. This requires an action on our part, which when we completed will mean that we have admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. This brings us to the fifth step in the program of recovery. The best reason first. If we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking. Time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves certain facts about their lives. Trying to avoid this humbling experience, they have turned to easier methods. Almost invariably, they got drunk. We think the reason is that they never completed their house cleaning. They took inventory all right, but hung on to some of the worst items in stock. They only thought they had lost their egoism in fear. They only thought they had humbled themselves, but they had not learned enough of humility, fearlessness, and honesty in the sense we find it until they told someone else all of their life story. And I did my step 5. I had me and my sponsor and another member. And first off, I just read out my step 4 because I figured that would have a lot of my problems and situations. And then the sponsor told me his parts of his story, and the other guy said parts of his story. And we just all went around the circle like that every so often during the event. And I didn't feel anything at the moment, but I realized a couple days later on my way to a meeting, I was like, damn, all of this burden has isn't even there anymore. Like, I could walk into any meeting and share something completely stupid that I thought I would never say to anybody ever again. And I think it really loses its power it held on me. It's kind of like bringing the things from my past into the light. Anything that affects me in the dark, bringing it to the light helps it lose its effect. It's clearing out the wreckage of my past. I don't know what other things to say about it, but it's a good experience. I wouldn't assume telling someone about something could have any effect. That just thought of that kind of seems weird. And we can't buy our peace of mind at the expense of others. So looking through the things, it'd be easy to fill it up with resentments of things you did wrong because of what someone else did. But it's more about cleaning my side of the street, the things that I've done, and I can't control the decisions of other people that may have helped lead to these defects of character or resentments or grudges or mistakes made by me. I just have to look at my part in things and the things I've done wrong. And step 5. I confess my character weakness and the wrongdoings to God, myself, and another human being. I'll skip the confessions to God because that's pretty simple, I would assume. Just literally just telling God the exact nature of your wrongs and being honest with yourself seems pretty much kind of explanatory. Mostly being honest with yourself. You don't have to physically read it to yourself per se. But nothing's stopping you. Confessions to a trusted person. I confess my character weakness and wrongdoings to God, myself, and another human being. Once we understand that God will forgive us and welcome us with love despite our actions, confession to God gets easier and easier. The next hurdle is then accepting that you need to talk to another person about this process of recovery. This will include sharing your thoughts, actions, and recovery journey. This sponsor / and or accountability person has to be someone who is further along the recovery journey than yourself, the same gender as you is recommended, trustworthy, reliable, and supportive of your goals in recovery, a person you respect, and should be a follower of Jesus, is recommended when possible. Confession to your sponsor, supportive person, is very important to your recovery. You will experience a new level of understanding of God's love when you see a person in front of you say, God forgives you, and so do I. Having a person who knows exactly what has happened on your journey and chooses to still walk with you gives you an example of how Jesus cares for us. Confession will not be easy, but it is an in the moment lesson about how your actions affect others. Who is someone you can imagine trusting with this journey of recovery? When you have taken time to consider and pray about who you're going to share with, reach out to ask if they accept your confessions as part of your journey of support and recovery. If you have sinned, you should tell each other what you've done. Then you can pray for one another and be healed. The prayer of an innocent person is powerful, and it can help a lot. James chapter 5, verse 16. I'll read some more. Honesty and transparency in confession are the healthy character qualities, even though they put us at risk of being embarrassed, ashamed, or rejected. It can be really scary to put ourselves in the vulnerable position of sharing sins and weakness with others. It can also be painful to tell the truth about how our actions and attitudes have wounded others. Choosing honesty when you are used to hiding is not easy. Start with one person and build up your comfort for honesty and transparency over time. You are being courageous and building your character. We must keep our eyes on Jesus, who leads us and makes our faith complete. Endured the shame of being nailed to a cross because he knew later on he would be glad he did. Now he is seated at the right side of God's throne. Jesus did not deserve the pain and humiliation he experienced when he was tortured and killed for a crime of which he was not guilty. They took off his clothes and nailed him to a cross, where he stayed bleeding and wounded until he died. Jesus died even though he was innocent. He took the punishment for our guilt, and in our place, he allowed himself to be sacrificed in order to make it possible for God to rescue us. Jesus was rewarded by joy and honor for his choices. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 11. It is never fun to be corrected. In fact, at the time, it is always painful. But if we learn to obey by being corrected, we will do right and live in peace. And I'm going to finish this off with a prayer. Thank you, Lord Jesus, for accepting me just as I am. I have started to see how my choices have an impact on others, and I am sad to experience rejection. Comfort me and remind me of your truth when I am angry or experience despair. Thank you for the comfort of knowing that you love me. I ask you to give me the courage to risk being embarrassed and rejected so that I can be known and accepted by others. I want to experience the joy you have planned for me. James chapter 1, verse 5. If any of you need wisdom, you should ask God, and it will be given to you. God is generous and won't correct you for asking. What is your story with Jesus? How did he come to you and rescue you? Dear Jesus, thank you for rescuing me and doing your loving work in my life.